Hey guys, this is Gregory Bennett. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'm excited to go over the BRRRR method with you. Many of you guys have heard about the BRRRR method. It's a strategy that real estate investors use to buy and hold properties. And so we use BRRRR to buy and hold properties. BRRRR stands for it's BRRRR. The first B is to buy the property, and the second B is to renovate the property. And then we're going to rent the property, refinance the property, then rinse and repeat, repeat the process. And so it's just a great way to build equity in the property. It's a great way to build cash flow into the property. And it's really a great way to build wealth. One thing I will tell you, though, is as great of a strategy that it is, it's not for every property. And I'll go over why in a few minutes, but it's not for every property. You've got to make sure you buy the property right. And so let me give you an example of a BRRRR property. I bought a property not too long ago in Maryland where I bought the property and I bought it right. And so I bought the property for $150,000. It was the motivated seller was distressed. And so I was able to buy the property right. The after repair value on the property was $325,000. So I bought the property for $150,000. I renovated the property and I spent about $30,000 on the renovation. So now I'm all in at $180,000. And then I put about $20,000 of my own money into the property for like closing costs, down payment, closing costs, $20,000 of my own money. So I'm actually all in at $200,000. And so I did renovate the property. I did some light renovations. I did rent the property out. My preference is Section 8, so I rented out Section 8. And so then when I went to refinance the property, and this was in a good market. This is live. March of 2023. So about a year ago is when I did this. Great market. When I went to renovate the property, first I made sure that I qualified to refinance, and I did. When I went to refinance the property, the lender only gave me 70% of the after repair value. Now of 325 after repair, 70% was 224. And so they financed me up to 224, which meant I was able to pay back my hard money lender that lent me the money for acquisition and rehab. I was able to pay myself back that $20,000 because I was all in at $20,000. And then I was able to get an extra $20,000 because 70%, lender was only going to lend 70% of the ARV after repair value, which is in this case is 224. And so I was able to get all of my money back and then some. And then I used the money that I put in to do another property. I repeated the process. So that's the other R. And so only in a great market, in a good, I'll say good market, can you do that, because you need the property to appreciate. You need to be able to buy that property right using what we call the Mayo formula. Mayo is MAO, maximum allowable offer formula. And so that's what I did. And so I did a BRRRR on that one. And then I got my money back, and then I repeated the process. And so that's what BRRRR is all about. And so let me go through each step, kind of step by step, and just kind of give you my analysis for each. And again, I'll go over the pros and cons of BRRRR. But it's a great way to build wealth for yourself. A lot of investors who really buy and hold that don't use BRRRR, they're limited in the number of properties they can actually buy and hold every year, because what they do is they'll buy and hold a property. They'll use their cash to do that, or some of their cash. Now their cash is tied up in the property. They didn't buy the property right where they can refinance and get their money back. And that's why a lot of investors buy and hold maybe one every 2 or 3 years, because they didn't buy that property right. And so that's the key to BRRRR. You've got to buy it right. You've got to know your market and the type of market conditions you're in, so you can keep buying those properties. No reason why you shouldn't be buying a BRRRR property at least once a year. Some people do it twice a year. One thing that I'll say and I'll repeat is my recommendation would be to do one property at a time, one buy and hold at a time. It usually takes, I don't know, 6 months to a year to really do a good job in completing that process. But I would recommend doing one at a time. All right, so buying the property. You want to make sure that you buy the property right. Use the formula. I'd like to say take 70% of the after repair value and then subtract out the repair costs. And that's what you should be buying a property right at. You know, I had an accountant about 10 years ago, and she said to me, she said, I don't understand why people buy and hold properties. And I said, why do you say that? And she said, because she said, you're not doing it, but most people, when they buy and hold properties, they lose money. They don't have cash flow. They're supplementing, you know, the rental income to pay their mortgage. And every 3 to 5 years, they buy a property they have to sell because they're losing money. They're tired of being landlords, all those types of things. And, you know, I said to her, if they buy that property right, even back then, as long as they buy the property right, they know each property is its own separate entity. It's its own business. And that business, like any other business, if you keep that property long enough, you know, you've got options. In 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, you can sell that property. All along the way, you can refinance that property. The case study that I gave you guys a few minutes ago, I've already refinanced that property and pulled some cash out. We were in a market last year where I was able to pull cash out of that property. And, you know, when you pull cash out, it's all tax-free money. It's not a taxable event. And so I was able to do that. And so you've got to buy the properties right. Make sure you use a formula. I don't buy properties to buy and hold using the BRRRR method that need a lot of renovation. And so just kind of minor cosmetic renovation. And I also want to make sure that I'm buying a property in an area where it's going to get a lot of good appreciation so I can enjoy that equity all along the way. And then you want to make sure that you buy it so that you can cash flow. And meaning whatever your mortgage payment is. And so in the case study that I gave you, the scenario I gave you, I'm getting $2,000 a month in rent, and my mortgage payment is about $1,200. So I'm starting off at $800 a month in positive cash flow. And so it's positive cash flow. I don't spend that money because along the way there could be some, you know, some repairs that need to be done, some unforeseen things. I pay myself like once a quarter on my properties. And so that's buying the property right. That's the first letter, the B in the BRRRR method. And you just want to make sure that you do that. The number one mistake that investors make is buying the properties wrong. So you want to make sure you buy it right, and follow that formula that I just gave you, And then we have the first R. That's for renovating the property. Now, I don't want a property. I don't buy a property that needs major renovations. I don't buy a property where I've got to pull a lot of permits, have a lot of inspections. I just want a cosmetic renovation, a light renovation. I really prefer not to have to add a bathroom or a bedroom. It kind of messes my numbers up. If I'm looking for a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, I'd like to buy that instead of make that, unless I'm able to really buy that property at a good price, even like 65% of the after repair value minus repair costs. I don't over improve. And so whatever the neighborhood calls for, and so the scenario I gave you guys earlier, that neighborhood, the house was 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bath, and I just kept it there. I kept it at 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bath. I put in LVP, luxury vinyl plank for flooring. We painted the house. It already had a new roof. I put on new siding. It needed new siding, needed some new windows. And I gutted the kitchen and gutted the bathrooms. That's it. I mean, my renovation was like $30,000. And so those are the type of renovations. Those are the type of houses that make for great BRRRR houses. What I would consider light renovations. A heavy renovation or like a gut property or a gut job, those don't make for good BRRRRs unless you're able to buy them right. And so that's the first R, the renovation. Especially if you're a new investor, you want to make sure that that first property, that first BRRRR, you're going to have to hire a contractor. But as I keep saying, light renovations. And then make sure you hire the right contractor. Make sure you look at some of their previous work. Make sure that you get a recommendation. The second R is to rent the property. So we're going to buy the property right. We're going to do light renovations. Then we're going to rent the property out. Now, my preference is to rent the property out using a voucher holder, like Section 8. And so I want the guaranteed rent. Every first of the month, I look in my account, the money is there. I don't care if we're going through a recession. I don't care if we're going through a pandemic. I don't care what the economic conditions are. It's, Section 8, in my opinion, it's like bulletproof. It's recession proof. And so that's why I like Section 8 tenants. Plus, the myth is that a Section 8 tenant is going to tear your property up, and that's just not true. Section 8 now, they come and they do their own inspection once a year, and they'll let the tenant know what they need to do and give them 30 days after their inspection. They'll give the landlord a list of things to do. They'll also give the tenant a list of things to do. If the tenant doesn't do what they're supposed to do within 30 days, Section 8 kicks them out the program. Now, you would have to evict them, but Section 8 kicks them out the program. And nobody wants that. They don't want that. In most cases, it takes 2 years to even get on Section 8's list in most areas, definitely here in our area in the DMV. And so I've had great tenants, great Section 8 tenants over the years. I've been renting out Section 8 with voucher holders for over 30 years now. And I've always had great experiences with that. And so that's what I recommend for rentals. Now, even with my Section 8 tenants, I still do a background check. I still check credit. Even if I get a full voucher, Section 8 does partial vouchers where the tenant pays a part of the rent and Section 8 pays the other. And they'll do a full voucher where they pay 100%. Whether it's a full voucher, partial voucher, I still do a background check. I still do a credit check. I still want to call their previous landlord and, talk to them if I can. And then also, if I can, I want to go see where they're living now and see how well they're taking care of the property. And so that's the rent. And you've got to get that right, because the way you're going to be successful with a BRRRR property or any other rental property is you've got to reduce turnover. You've got to reduce turnover. Turnover is what kills you and eats up your profits on a rental property. If you're renting that property out every year, every 2 years, every 3 years, number one, you go a few months at a time with no income coming in. And then every time a tenant moves out, you're more than likely to have to do some light improvements. And so you want to reduce tenants. And so I've got tenants that's been in some of my properties over 10 years, one close to 20 years. And so they actually, it's really the city or the county actually pay off your mortgage for you. And so you don't want that turnover, because that's extra money that has to come out of your pocket for that property. As long as you can keep that tenant in there, the tenant is your friend. The tenant is not your enemy. The longer you can keep the tenant in there, the less money you have coming out of your pocket. I always estimate somewhere around $500 a door or a property, $500 a door a year for like light renovation. So I always budget for that anyway. And so that's the rent. The second to the last R is to refinance. Now, when I purchase these properties, I'll either use my own cash, I'll use a hard money lender, or I'll use a line of credit to purchase the property. And that's short term. And I have used cash, especially like in Baltimore. I'll buy a property in Baltimore. Baltimore, by the way, is the #1 residential rental area in the United States. So great for BRRRR. But I'll either use cash or a hard money lender. And so I have a property in Annapolis where I bought the property using a hard money lender. And I used a private lender for down payment and closing help. Hard money lender also put up the money for the rehab. So we renovated the property. I renovated the property, rented it out, and then I refinanced and paid off the hard money lender, paid off the private lender. I put a little bit of my own money into the deal, and I got all of that back. And so that's how and so when you're refinancing, the #1 thing you need to make sure of is when you're refinancing is you want to be able to refinance and pay yourself back, where knowing that the lender is only going to give you 70% of the after repair value. And so in the scenario that I gave you earlier, I was all in. All the money was all in at $200,000. So the cost of the property was $150,000. Renovation was $30,000, and I put up cash of $20,000. I'm all in at $200,000. And so the house appraised for $320,000. 70% of that was $224,000. So I'm good. They will lend me up to $224,000. I'm all in at $200,000. I was able to pay off the hard money lender, get my money back, and have some money left over. All properties aren't like that. And so you've got to make sure that, especially in a good market, it's going to appraise. Also, you want to make sure, and I'll repeat this, you want to make sure that before you even start the process of BRRRR, or even sign a contract to purchase the property, you want to make sure that you talk to a lender first, especially the lender that's going to refinance you. We've seen situations where investors have started the BRRRR method, got all the way through, got to the refinance, and was unable to refinance. Or here recently, purchased the property 6 months to a year ago and bought it with hard money, renovated the property. Now interest rates have gone up. Now they're unable to refinance at that 70%. And so, but they were still able to refinance, but none of their own money back. And so that's not a BRRRR. And so you want to make sure that the type of market that you're in, make sure you're not in a market that's going to shift while you're trying to do the BRRRR. And then you want to make sure you talk to a lender first to get pre-approved. And then also that appraisal is what's most important with BRRRR. Make sure it's going to appraise for the number you need it to appraise for, so that you can pay back your lenders and pay back yourself to get your money back, so that you can do the last R, which is rinse and repeat the process. And so I want you to do that. I want you to get your money back, like I have on a few occasions, and then use that same money you bought that first property for to buy the second property. Now, in the repeat process, I want to make sure that you've completed your BRRRR before you do anything. Complete the first property, do an analysis or an evaluation on everything that went right, everything that went wrong, things you could do better. Because doing BRRRR, honestly, is almost like a perfect science. Like, you've got to do, all the numbers have to fit. Real estate investing is a numbers game anyway. It's a word problem. It's math. You just got to get all the numbers right. So evaluate what you just did and reasons things went well, maybe the reasons things didn't go well. And then go ahead and do your second property. And so that's what I do. And so that's why I refer, especially to my coaching students, just do one property at a time. Take your time. Do one property at a time. Make sure you're doing everything right. Make sure your numbers are right. Make sure you're consulting with, your coach or a mentor, especially with your lender. Then we want to repeat the process. Then we repeat the process. But we don't want to move too fast. And I've seen a lot of investors move too fast. All right, so let's go over the pros and cons of BRRRR. And if you guys have questions, go ahead and put them in the comment section. But let's go over sort of the pros and cons. The biggest few pros is you're buying a property using the BRRRR method, and the money that you put up, you're going to get right back, and then repeat the process. And so it just doesn't get any better than that. You've got to buy the property right. Another pro is if you buy the property right, you're going to have great cash flow. I've got some properties where I haven't even had them that long, and I'm getting over $1,000 a month in positive cash flow. One close to $2,000 a month in positive cash flow, and I've only had it for less than 2 years. And so you've got to buy the properties right. You want to buy in areas, you guys, that are appreciating, because you want equity. We do get equity. We get built-in equity when we buy the properties right, but all along the way, we want equity. I have a property I bought 3 years ago now in Northeast DC, where I paid $200,000 for it. I've bought down the principal, the mortgage a little bit, but now that property is appreciated where I owe about, I don't know, 175,000. It's worth, it appraised for 500,000, $500,000 in a 3-year period, you guys, 3-year period. And so I was able to buy a property in the Deanwood section where over the last 4 or 5 years, it's appreciated at about 70%. And so we want to buy properties in the right areas, and so that we can enjoy the equity. And so some people tell me, we talk about equity a lot. What's the big deal about equity? Equity is a big deal. There's lots you can do with equity. You can borrow against it, tax-free. You can use that money. Like last year, I pulled money out of my Annapolis property that I did a BRRRR on, and I pulled the money out and bought another property with that money. And so the equity is important. If you use it and use it correctly, equity is important. So those are primarily the pros, that you can really build wealth using BRRRR. Some of the negatives are that I've seen is not buying the properties right, buying properties in a shifted market. There's always signs that the market is shifting. You know, once you see interest rates going up, not saving your money. So we talk about cash flow all the time. You want to make sure that you're not spending that money. If you're making, you know, $500, $600, $1,000 a month in positive cash flow, that's not money for you to go out and spend. That's money for you to save. My recommendation is, at minimal, pay yourself once a quarter, if not twice a year. Keep that money in an account, just, you know, for a rainy day, or some type of maintenance cost could come up. Anything could come up. You just never know. I mean, my tenants call me all the time for little things. And exterminate, I just got a call yesterday, exterminate. I needed my exterminator to go out. You just never know. And so for those are some of the reasons why buying and holding in BRRRR just simply doesn't work. But overall, you guys, BRRRR is just a great way to build wealth. You don't have to worry about where the cash is coming from for your next property. And that's the biggest concern that a lot of investors make. You know, where's the money going to come from the next property? Well, the money's going to come from you getting the money back from your previous property when you refinance, when you buy the property right. And so I'm starting my daughter off. My daughter's 24 years old. I'm starting her off with buying her first BRRRR property this year. She bought a property to live in last year. Her first BRRRR property will be this year. She's using the cash out of her insurance policy, her cash value, to put down the down payment and closing costs. She's going to buy this property that we've already identified. She's going to buy the property. She's going to renovate the property. She's going to use a hard money lender. She's going to rent that property out, Section 8. Then she's going to refinance and pay her cash value universal life policy back. and it's going to keep accumulating. So she's going to pay her insurance policy back. She's going to wait and make sure everything is flowing well. And then the following year, next year, she's going to do the same thing. She's going to use the cash again while it's still accumulating. It's getting compounded interest out of her insurance policy. So she's going to be her own bank. And that's called infinite banking. And then pretty soon, she'll be able to, once she has a few properties, she'll be able to borrow money from those properties to buy even more properties. And so that's how using an insurance policy alongside of the BRRRR method really works. So look, you guys, if you have any questions, go to the comment section, or you just have a comment. Hopefully this was useful for you. Follow me on my Instagram, Greg Bennett Invests, for a lot of great information that will be a value to you. Subscribe to my YouTube. My YouTube is Wealth Building with Gregory Bennett. I generally speak about real estate investing probably at least once or twice a week. And most of that information goes to my Instagram and my YouTube. And so, and then like this, if you like what I'm saying, like this. But anyway, let's build wealth. Let's build wealth together with information, with the right information, with the right education. You can build wealth and you can become wealthy. You also need a coach or a mentor to help you minimize your mistakes and help you along the way to get your goals. All right, you guys, take care. God bless. And I will talk to you guys soon. Have a wonderful day.